New year, everybody, albeit, a day late. 2022, the year that I wholeheartedly hope to explode as a creator here in the Destiny community. I am so grateful for all of you guys and your support since I started making videos back in Season of Arrivals, and I can't possibly thank you all enough, and I definitely look forward to this new year of making videos for you guys. Now, I got some big videos in the works, and when I say big, I mean videos as big as my love for my subscribers. I mean videos big enough to where they take a full week of purely playing Destiny 2 to get ready for recording, editing, and all that great stuff. So while those videos are in the works, today I thought that we'd sit down and do something a little bit different. Today I want to sit down with you guys and discuss my top 10 most slept on / underrated legendary weapons for PvE Destiny 2. Now, of course, when talking about slept on or underrated weapons, nothing is necessarily objective fact, and there's always going to be that guy in the comment section saying, "What do you mean X gun is slept on? I've been using it since it came." Hush, nobody cares. So just a heads up, this video is obviously personal opinion, but I do have good reasoning behind why I feature certain weapons in this list, and in many cases I've used data from Destiny Tracker to see certain weapon usage rates, and over half of these weapons aren't even in the top 100 as of the making of this video. So with all that said, like the video if you enjoy the content today, subscribe to the channel to see more from me, follow me on Twitch to hang out in the live streams. I'm having a little bit of a New Year's resolution to stream a lot more over there, and let's jump into this. So starting off today's video, I want to talk about my personal favorite weapon out of all the ones we're going to talk about today, and that is going to be the Arctic Haze 720 RPM auto rifle. Why is this gun so slept on? Seriously, like an actual question, why don't you people use this thing more? It's a 720 RPM, which for me at least is the best feeling auto archetype in the game. It's able to be focus farmed at Variks on Europa, and has quite possibly the best weapon roll for in-game content for an anti-barrier auto rifle, triple tap, and Vorpal weapon. Reminder, Vorpal weapon got buffed to deal 20% damage on champions and bosses when used on a primary now, so Arctic Haze got even better with the most recent update. I don't care what anybody says, if anti-barrier auto is a thing and I need an auto rifle, Arctic Haze is the very first weapon I'm reaching for 100% of the time, as long as other elemental shields aren't present, and I don't even need to be in in-game content to be using this thing. It's just a phenomenal feeling auto rifle. It has really great damage uptime thanks to triple tap, or if I'm in need of ad clear then I can use subsistence instead, and then you have Vorpal in the final column to just absolutely shred through champions. This all goes without mentioning that the gun is sexy with a capital S, so stop sleeping on this thing and pick one up today. Go to Europa and talk to Variks. Up next, we have a weapon that leaves me absolutely bamboozled that it's not at least in the top 100 most used weapons, and that's the Judgment 140 RPM kinetic hand cannon. Now listen, I'll be the first one to tell you that Fatebringer is God's gift to the earth for the kinetic slot. But stop dissing my boy right here, because he's got something to offer that's just as nice as the other kinetic hand cannons. Fatebringer has the godlike double damage perk combo of Payload Frenzy, Ice Luna has the stasis synergy of Headstone, and Judgment got those grenades, the big boom booms. Might I interest you in Demolitionist Adrenaline Junkie? Adrenaline Junkie is pretty damn good now thanks to the buff, or perhaps timed payload in that slot for in-game content is more enticing. Being able to get your grenade back super quick on top of a permanent 12% damage increase, and y'all are sleeping on this thing to the point of it not being in the top 100? Y'all should be ashamed of yourselves, alright? And for my fellow Judgment enjoyers out there, y'all some real ones. Pick this one up from the Prophecy dungeon and bump those numbers up. It deserves it. Moving on from Judgment, we have a weapon that I've been waiting to farm a god roll of for literally a year. Nope, seriously, I actually have, and that's the Avalanche Solar Machine Gun. Now, you might be telling yourself, what the heck, Joey? Avalanche? That's a gun that you've been hyped about? Yes, and let me tell you why. Avalanche comes from the Dawning, hence my year-long wait, and the reason I've been so hyped about this gun coming back is because of the severe lack of actually good solar machine guns. Now, ever since the season began, machine guns got a whopping 20% damage increase, and in my opinion, have never felt better. I'm quite literally foaming at the mouth for some machine gun champion mods next season, because they just feel that damn good to use. Now, Avalanche just so happens to be a machine gun, and also just so happens to be one of the only solar machine guns in the game. The other being Thermal Erosion, which ew, and Archon's Thunder, which Iron Banner isn't exactly the most consistent mode to get god rolls from because of its horrible loot system. So that brings us to Avalanche, which not only has the best perks out of the two other solar machine guns, but also is my favorite archetype of machine gun at the 450 RPM, which mirrors that of Commemoration from Deepstone or Hammerhead of Times Past. Perk-wise, you can get Avalanche with auto-loading or subsistence in the first column, with Swashbuckler, Vorpal, or Adrenaline Junkie in the second. It's currently at 73rd in popularity, but I can promise you it wouldn't even be this high if the donning wasn't going on. So pick it up before the event is over, and it may come in more handy next season, especially if we get a machine gun champion mod. Up next from Avalanche, we have another solar weapon to talk about, and that is the Sola Scar Sword from Trials of Osiris. This weapon is nowhere to be found in the top 100, and is actually a sword that I almost would never take off back in Season of the Chosen when it first launched. Sola Scar is understandably not as utilized as other weapons in the game for PvE because it's a Trials weapon, but when I say it's the most fun sword to use in the game, I 100% mean that. At least for combat, because we all know the Yeet swords are super fun and probably the most fun thing we've had in a while, but for combat, Sola Scar is the most fun. I mean, who wouldn't want a sword that flings fiery onion rings at enemies while simultaneously chaining their deaths together via explosions, while simultaneously converting their dead carcasses into Warmind cells? Did I also mention that thanks to the most recent caster frame sword buff, this weapon can quite literally have unlimited ammo so long as you're chaining enough kills together. Next time Trials rolls around, grind it out, get some engrams, and by golly, focus those engrams into this sword for a tireless blade chain reaction roll. I have an adept version, which is awesome, but unfortunately I don't have tireless blade for the unlimited ammo, so I've been thinking about hopping back into Trials to get an even better version. So yeah, Sola Scar bangs, pun intended, farm this bad boy out the next chance you get. Moving on from Sola Scar, we have a weapon that leaves me absolutely befuddled when I see people either not using it or not knowing that it exists, and that is the point of the Stag combat bow. How do you get this weapon, you ask? Well, you see this little kiosk here in the tower? Yeah, open it up, go to this little menu here, and boom, instant god rolled arc bow baby. Yep, it's literally that simple. Now, not only are you getting a god rolled bow, but you're getting a god rolled bow that literally got better this season with the Vorpal buff of 20% damage on primaries, and you're getting a god rolled bow in the middle of a season that requires bows for overload champions. There isn't much else that I need to say about this weapon other than I do think that Wolf Tone Draw from Season of the Lost is a bit better, as it has some more varied and better perk options, but Point of the Stag is literally a god roll waiting for you to pick it up while also being free to play friendly. Pick it up next time you're in the tower if you haven't already, and pro tip, if you do dismantle it on accident like I did and think that you've lost it forever, you can just claim another one in your collections tab. Now, I know we've talked a lot about weapons that have really great in-game viability thus far. Quite literally, that's almost all my channel is about, and it's very rare that I talk about a weapon that I'd only use in casual content, as I don't really think it really matters all that much what you use there. However, Stochastic Variable, aka Modern Day Recluse, has something to say about that. I made a standalone video about this weapon way back when the season first started, and very rarely do I do that. I've only done one other weapon review on this channel, and that was for the Last Breath auto rifle, so you know I love this weapon if I dedicated a whole video to it. Now, Stochastic Variable is a weapon that I deeply loved back when it came out in Season of the Splicer, but it wasn't one that I could recommend to everybody because of its awful ammo situation, as it would run out very quickly. However, for Season of the Lost and onward, primaries have unlimited ammo, eliminating that problem for me. Now, this weapon shares damn near identical stats with Recluse, and can also benefit from a Master of Arms level damage buff via multi-kill clip. You get Stochastic from the World Loot Pool or focusing it from Umbral Engrams, and if you get the Feeding Frenzy multi-kill clip roll, keep that bad boy. Feeding Frenzy, of course, will increase your reload speed, which is great for a weapon that's 900 RPM and runs out quickly, and Multi-Kill Clip is going to provide Stochastic with a 50% damage buff when at full stacks, which is going to let you mow through enemies like a hot knife on butter with no problem. Anyways, Stochastic barely inches its way into the top 100, but it deserves to be much higher in usage 100%. Stochastic Variable is my go-to weapon inside casual content simply because it melts through enemies like nobody's business, and I hope you grind for one day and give it a try yourself. Now, next up from Stochastic, we have another hand cannon for the video, and this one is for the elemental slot, unlike Judgment, the Annual Skate. Now, the Annual Skate drops from the World Loot Pool, can be farmed through Umbrals, all that great stuff, and despite this hand cannon being an absolute banger in PvE, it's nowhere to be found in the top 100, so let's discuss what makes this gun so special. Starting things off, if you're a fan of in-game content, Annual Skate is quite literally the only solar legendary hand cannon in the game that's worth using. The only competition it has comes via Ancient Gospel and Igneous Hammer, and unfortunately, both these weapons aren't exactly known for PvE viability. So when taking a look at Annual Skate and its perks, you're going to see a very unique perk set that isn't found on any other hand cannon right now: Triple Tap and Timed Payload. Triple Tap is for that great sustained damage by keeping your magazine filled, and Timed Payload for that permanent 12% damage buff to heads and 16% to bodies. This in and of itself is really good and makes Annual Skate worth using in my opinion, but I wouldn't be mentioning this weapon if that was all that it brought to the table, because when using Annual Skate, there's actually a really cool synergy that happens between it and the mod Wrath of Rasputin when using Timed Payload. Wrath of Rasputin is a mod that allows for the creation of Warmind cells when killing an enemy with solar splash damage. Annual Skate is solar, and its Timed Payload explosion counts as solar splash. So if you kill an enemy specifically with that Timed Payload explosion, which is much easier than explosive payload for example since there's a delay, you can make Warmind cells. Annual Skate is a super unique hand cannon that also has a complete hold on the solar hand cannon market for endgame, and I highly recommend people go out there and get a god roll for future content. Now moving on from Annual Skate, we have probably my favorite looking weapon in all of Destiny 2, by far the sexiest thing I've ever laid eyes on aside from myself in the mirror, the 7th Seraph SAW. But make no mistake, it's not featured on this list for looks alone, obviously. No, it's featured on this list for two different reasons that we'll get into right now. Reason one being that ever since the nerf to Vorpal on heavy weapons, the Seraph SAW stands out as the only machine gun with firing line, which is a perk that grants 10% more damage than Vorpal now, and reason two, the Seraph SAW just got much easier to get your hands on ever since the 30th anniversary update. So firstly, diving into number one, obviously as we all know, the perk Vorpal weapon got changed to only give a 10% buff on heavies, 15 on specials, and 20 on primaries. This opens up a door for the Seraph SAW that previously wasn't there, as it provides a 20% damage buff at all times with firing line, so long as you're near your teammates. When playing in-game content like Grandmasters for example, having this perk up is an issue that many of us won't have, and unlike Vorpal, firing line grants that damage buff on every single enemy you fire at, instead of just bosses or champs. You also don't need to worry about having ads present like One For All if you're hoping to take advantage of this damage buff, so I highly recommend not sleeping on firing line. Now moving on, obviously the Seraph SAW can make Warmind cells, which too is nice, but ever since their nerf I don't really prioritize their usage, so getting into reason 2, for those that didn't know, the only way to get your hands on these Seraph weapons inside Destiny was getting them from gunsmith material turn-ins, but ever since the 30th anniversary, these weapons can actually be farmed through Dares of Eternity. Now Dares of Eternity is a bit weird as it seems the loot pool is on a weekly rotation, but last week when I was streaming on Twitch, we were grinding Dares and I was getting Seraph weapons almost every single time I ran the activity, and this of course included the Seraph SAW. With that being said, the Seraph SAW isn't even in the top 100 as of the making of this video, but with this newfound avenue of getting your hands on it and firing line looking much better now since the Vorpal nerf, I'd say it went from being a pretty inferior swarm in every way to being a very underrated weapon that should be on your radar. Now moving on from the Seraph SAW, we find ourselves talking about a pretty popular weapon right now in terms of usage, sitting around the 30-second spot, but still a weapon that I think is going to lose a bit of popularity after the hype of the 30th anniversary event dies down, and I don't want that to happen. We're of course talking about the Pardon Our Dust kinetic grenade launcher. Now the reason I'm talking about this weapon is mainly due to the stigma that quote, Pardon Our Dust doesn't have slide shot, L+ ratio, ignition gang. And listen, I love me some slide shot as much as the next guy, but in my honest opinion, I believe Pardon Our Dust is the better option of the two, at least in in-game PvE. From a pure damage standpoint, of course ignition code is better as it rolls with spike nades, slide shot, Vorpal, but of course you clicked on a Demon Joe video so you know we're going to talk about blinding nades. Now for me personally, and maybe I'm just whack, I much prefer auto-loading holster as opposed to slide shot on my GLs when using them for blinding. Unlike slide shot where I need to fire and consciously slide after it, or if I'm in the air, wait until I hit the ground to slide before stowing my weapon away to make sure it's ready for the next use, I can just fire my weapon with Pardon Our Dust, put it away, and know for a fact that it's good for my next shot whenever I need it. I can't explain to you guys how many times I've died because of ignition code simply being inconvenient for me to use inside Grandmasters. When I'm using a blinding GL, my goal is to blind the enemies and immediately swap to another weapon to start clearing them out before they can kill me. With ignition code, that style of play is a bit more annoying for me. So long story short, don't let slide shot skew your opinion on Pardon Our Dust. This GL quickly became my favorite in the game as it's the only auto-loading kinetic we got, and I will preach of its greatness until the end of times. With all that said, here we are, the final weapon of the video. This list wasn't in any order, but hot damn, this weapon has got to be the most slept on and underappreciated one of them all. The Sacred Provenance Aggressive Burst Pulse Rifle. Now, unfortunately, I do not have a good one of these, so shout out to my friend and fellow content creator Foopy. His links will be in the description for the gameplay that you're seeing now. This weapon is literally one of a kind in Destiny right now, and it's the very unique 4-burst pulse rifle archetype, and can get the really cracked perk combination of Rapid It Kill Clip or Outlaw Kill Clip. This is a weapon I've been wanting for a very long time, and one of these days, I'm gonna get off my ass, grind Garden of Salvation, and bang out a god roll. This gun is an absolute beauty, and I'd love to bag one so I can take it on my Grandmaster Nightfall adventures. One of the most slept on guns I've ever seen. It's the only archetype of its kind in the game, and unfortunately, yeah, it does come from Garden of Salvation, but the raid isn't that bad. All right, it's not as bad as people say it is. So I highly recommend getting your hands on one of these. Kill Clip is one of the only kill activated damage perks that I really like, because it gives you the super high, 33% damage after just one kill and reload. And pairing that with Rapid Hit and Outlaw, I mean, you can't go wrong with it, you know what I mean? It's an absolute beauty for the kinetic slot. I mean, the BXR might be my favorite pulse rifle in the game right now, but Sacred Provenance can definitely take that spot, at least for the kinetic slot. But guys, that's gonna do it for today's video. A while ago, at the beginning of the season, like I talked about earlier, I made a video discussing the stochastic variable and basically saying how slept on I thought it was. That was basically the whole premise of the video, and you guys seemed to really enjoy that video and weapon review, so I thought, hey, what if I just made that video but on a much grander scale, and here we are. So I hope you all enjoyed the video today. It was definitely something a bit different for me, but nonetheless, I'm really proud of the outcome, and it was a lot of fun to make. I'm not going to be doing a comment of the day today. I just want to take some time to go off script and just thank you guys so much for the support last year. God has blessed me with such a great audience of people, and I'm extremely thankful for every single one of you guys that continue to support my content and help me do this as a full-time job. You're all awesome, and I can't possibly express that enough. So thank you guys so much for watching this far to the end of the video. I love you guys so much, and I'll see you all next time.